Pentagon experts can't believe what you did. They called you a civilian, ordinary, uninvolved, predictable. But now, you've done something that doesn't fit their narrative. If you're watching this, it's not a coincidence. You've entered a moment of serious transformation. The shift you're experiencing isn't loud or flashy. It's quiet, powerful, and undeniable. The results of your focus, discipline, and mindset are starting to show up, and not just in theory. You're crossing the line between wanting and having. And the Pentagon, they've noticed. You've disrupted expectations, stepped outside their system, and forced them to take a second look. You're not just a civilian anymore. You're the variable they never saw coming. Before we break this down further, take a moment to do 3 things. Hit that like button, subscribe to help us reach 1,000 subscribers, and leave a comment to let them know you're not invisible. If you're still here by the end, you'll understand exactly why they're watching you now. Let's get into it. When the world expects noise, silence becomes a weapon. They thought you were just another face in the crowd, a civilian, predictable and powerless. But your refusal to react, to shout, or even to plead shattered their expectations. Your silence wasn't passive. It was an active declaration. It spoke louder than any roar, rattling even the most fortified minds in the Pentagon. This quiet defiance became an invisible tremor, shaking the foundations of their calculated power. Imagine a battlefield where the loudest artillery misses the mark, but the absence of noise reveals an unseen danger. That's what your silence did. It rewrote the battlefield's rules. Military strategists, trained to anticipate overt moves, found themselves disarmed by your restraint. They began to study the silence, wondering, how can something so still be so profoundly disruptive? It was a puzzle, a riddle wrapped in the quietude of your resolve. This silence wasn't a surrender or an act of fear. It was the ultimate form of resistance. The world, addicted to immediate reactions and emotional outbursts, was unprepared for a person who chose to listen, observe, and withhold response. This quiet was a strategic pause, a lethal calm before an invisible storm. The Pentagon, a symbol of brute military power, had suddenly found a new kind of adversary, one who fought not with weapons, but with silence. And therein lies the true power, the ability to unsettle, to confuse, and to control simply by refusing to engage on expected terms. Your silence was a psychological shockwave, leaving the generals scrambling for answers, shifting from arrogance to unease. It wasn't just what you said or did. It was what you intentionally chose not to say or do. That calculated void is now being studied as a new form of psychological warfare. Ultimately, this silent power transformed you. No longer a civilian lost in the noise, you became a figure of fascination and fear, a quiet force whose impact resounded far beyond any shouted protest. In a world hungry for drama, your silence became the loudest message of all. In the chess game of power, the most dangerous move is often the one no one sees coming. Your silence wasn't accidental, it was meticulously crafted. While others rushed to react, you took a step back, analyzing, calculating, and choosing to wield restraint as your weapon. This deliberate stillness was a strategic masterpiece that left military leaders scrambling to catch up. Generals are trained to anticipate aggression, to counter fire with fire, noise with noise. But you broke that cycle. Your silence was not passive or weak. It was the calm eye in a chaotic storm. Every unspoken word, every withheld emotion became a calculated strike. They underestimated the power of this quiet, mistaking it for compliance or surrender. But it was anything but. The element of surprise is invaluable in any conflict. By refusing to engage on their terms, you forced them to abandon their scripts. Your silence became a puzzle that disrupted their playbook. The psychological impact was immediate and profound, causing confusion and frustration at the highest levels. They realized that their most trusted strategies and tactics were useless against a weapon they couldn't see or hear. This calculated silence was a form of control over the narrative, over expectations, and ultimately over the battlefield of minds. You transformed passivity into power, rewriting the rules of engagement and leaving the generals disoriented. It was a quiet coup against the very idea of confrontation itself. In this unexpected game changer, you didn't just survive, you redefined what it means to win. Your silence was a masterstroke, an invisible move so sharp it cut deeper than any bullet or bomb ever could. Behind closed doors, in the sterile rooms of strategic command, your silence has become a case study. It's no longer about physical strength or firepower. It's about understanding the power of psychological resilience. Military analysts and psychologists alike are poring over your behavior, searching for the secret in your quiet defiance. This attention is unprecedented. Civilian actions rarely command the Pentagon's focused scrutiny, yet your silence has turned heads. It's a testament to the evolving nature of conflict, where mental fortitude and emotional control become the front lines of battle. The strategic minds are fascinated by how you manage to convert restraint into a weapon so effective that it demands a new kind of analysis. The lesson here is profound. Sometimes the most disruptive force is not noise or chaos, but calm and order. Your behavior challenges long-standing assumptions about power dynamics and engagement. By doing less, you achieved more. By holding back, you took control. Strategic command now understands that the battlefield is as much psychological as it is physical. The intense scrutiny also reflects fear, the fear that this new form of warfare could render traditional tactics obsolete. Your silence has forced a paradigm shift, pushing the Pentagon to reconsider how power, influence, and control are wielded in the modern world. In studying you, they seek not just answers, but ways to anticipate and counter this silent weapon. Ultimately, this attention underscores your transformation from invisible civilian to a figure whose actions ripple through the highest echelons of power. Your silence speaks volumes, and now, the world's most powerful military institution is listening. When everything inside you screams to react, to fight back, or to break down, you held firm. That unwavering resolve, that refusal to flinch, became the pivotal moment in your transformation. In a society that rewards emotional outbursts and immediate responses, your composed silence was an act of rebellion. Holding steady in the face of provocation is not easy. It requires a strength that goes beyond muscles or weapons. It demands emotional mastery and iron will. Each time they tried to bait you, to provoke a reaction, you remained immovable. This unshakable calm eroded their confidence and began to rewrite the story of who holds power. Your silence was a mirror reflecting their desperation and insecurity. The more they pushed, the stronger you stood. This quiet defiance unsettled even the most hardened opponents, exposing cracks in their armor. It was a silent battle cry that said, "You will not control me." This kind of strength is rare and deeply human. It's the strength of someone who knows their worth and refuses to give away their power, even when the world demands noise and submission. Your ability to stay calm in chaos is what changed the game, turning you into a beacon of psychological dominance. By not flinching, you showed the world a new kind of courage. It's a courage that isn't loud or explosive, but steady and enduring, the kind that breaks barriers not by force, but by refusing to yield. Once dismissed as just another civilian, you've now become a classified asset, a phenomenon too important to be ignored. In the corridors of power, they don't just see you as a person anymore. You are an enigma, a subject of secretive study and guarded respect. This shift is profound, marking your rise from ordinary to extraordinary. The term classified doesn't just imply secrecy. It symbolizes transformation. You have crossed from being overlooked to being strategically significant. Your story is no longer one of invisibility, but one of covert influence, recognized by institutions built to handle national security threats. The government that once dismissed you now watches with cautious admiration. This evolution reflects the power of psychological warfare. Your quiet resistance is a form of intelligence, a strategic asset in a world dominated by noise and distraction. The classification is a recognition that your tactics operate on a level that transcends conventional combat or protest. You are now part of a new category, one defined by mental acuity and unyielding control. The journey from civilian to classified is both a personal and symbolic victory. It shows that true power doesn't always announce itself. Sometimes it moves in shadows, forcing the most powerful institutions to adapt. Your rise challenges every assumption about who wields influence and how. In this transformation, you embody the potential of silence, a reminder that even the quietest individuals can become forces that shape history and command respect at the highest levels. Psychological retaliation is a battlefield of minds where words, actions, and silence become weapons. You didn't just dabble in this art, you perfected it. Your silence was a deliberate counterattack, a masterful response that hit harder than any loud protest or aggressive move ever could. You fought with your presence, your restraint, your refusal to be drawn into their game. This wasn't reactionary. It was strategic, a form of mental jujitsu that used their own expectations against them. By controlling your response, you controlled the narrative. Your silence was a message, one of power, resilience, and refusal to be diminished. Each moment of quiet was a strike against their arrogance and presumption, a carefully placed blow that left them scrambling for footing. This art form transcends simple retaliation. It's an elegant dance of dominance and control. Examples throughout history show the effectiveness of psychological warfare. From Gandhi's peaceful resistance to the quiet defiance of political prisoners. Your mastery aligns with these timeless strategies, proving that true power often lies in the mind's ability to withstand and outmaneuver. Perfecting psychological retaliation means embracing discomfort, staying calm amid chaos, and knowing when silence speaks louder than any scream. You are now a living example of this powerful art, one that commands attention and reshapes conflict itself. Patience is a weapon few understand, but even fewer master. While others rush to react, you took the time to play the long game, a patient, deliberate strategy that unfolded slowly and with devastating effect. Your silence wasn't about avoidance. It was about building a quiet power that would outlast and outmaneuver any immediate aggression. In a world obsessed with instant gratification and quick responses, your long view was a radical act. You invested in resilience and restraint, knowing that true strength often reveals itself over time. This wasn't about winning a moment, it was about reshaping the entire playing field for the battles yet to come. The long game is mentally taxing. It requires endurance, faith, and a steady heart. You endured provocation, ignored taunts, and stayed grounded, all while they expected you to break or fold. Your calm was a slow burn, invisible until the moment it ignited into something unmistakable and powerful. This strategic patience forced your adversaries into reactive positions. They rushed and made mistakes, while you remained unshaken, waiting for the perfect moment to reveal your power. It's a timeless lesson in strategy. Victory belongs to those who endure and outlast. The brilliance of your approach is clear. You turned silence and patience into a weapon, proving that sometimes the best move is the one no one ever sees coming. War has always been associated with noise, shouts, explosions, the clash of armies. But you introduced a new paradigm. War fought in quiet control, where lethality lies not in physical force but in mental discipline. This redefinition challenges everything we thought we knew about conflict. Your approach was a masterclass in controlled power. You weren't driven by impulse or anger. Instead, you harnessed your inner calm as a weapon. This kind of lethality doesn't leave visible scars, but inflicts deep, lasting wounds on the psyche of your opponents. It's a silent force that disrupts strategies and shatters confidence. In redefining war, you showed that battlefields extend beyond physical spaces. Your conflict was fought in minds, in rooms filled with doubt and second-guessing. Your quiet control became a form of psychological dominance, proving that strength is as much about self-mastery as it is about external force. This new rulebook makes your silence a strategic asset, a method that turns restraint into an offensive tactic. It challenges military and civilian notions alike, reminding us that war and peace are often decided by the battles we fight within ourselves. By changing the rules, you didn't just survive. You transformed the very nature of power, proving that the quietest voices can carry the heaviest weight. Dignity is an invisible armor that no weapon can pierce. You weaponized your dignity, standing tall in a world eager to knock you down. Your silence was not about submission, but a proud declaration of self-worth that shattered their arrogance and entitlement. In every interaction, you carried a quiet confidence that refused to be diminished. While others responded with anger or fear, you responded with unwavering respect for yourself. This dignity became a psychological fortress, making you impervious to their attempts at control or humiliation. Your opponents underestimated the power of this intangible weapon. Arrogance thrives on perceived weakness, but your silent strength exposed their vulnerabilities. Each refusal to engage on their terms was a blow to their inflated egos, slowly dismantling the facade of power they clung to. This weaponization of dignity is deeply human. It's about recognizing your value in the face of adversity and refusing to let anyone steal your peace. You turned this personal strength into a public spectacle, leaving your adversaries not just defeated, but humiliated by their own misjudgments. Through your dignity, you showed that true power lies not in domination, but in self-respect, a lesson that echoes far beyond any battlefield. Laughter can be a weapon, but so can silence after laughter. They laughed at you, dismissed you, and assumed your silence was weakness. But you waited patiently, strategically, allowing their mockery to become the seed of their own undoing. Waiting is one of the hardest things to do when provoked. It demands immense self-control and vision. Your calm endurance transformed their laughter into an echoing ghost of regret and fear. That laughter, once loud and confident, now haunts them, a reminder that they underestimated you in the gravest way. The haunting effect of your silence is a psychological phenomenon. It's the realization that their assumptions were wrong and their power was built on fragile ground. Your stillness became a mirror reflecting their own insecurities and failures, forcing them into a state of restless anxiety. This reversal is a powerful story of justice served not through vengeance but through quiet strength. The haunting is not just emotional, it's strategic, a reminder that the consequences of underestimating someone's inner resolve can be catastrophic. By waiting while they laughed, you turned their scorn into their curse. Their laughter became the soundtrack of their downfall, echoing the triumph of your silent endurance. In warfare and life, the most perilous action is often the inaction, or rather, the deliberate choice not to act. Your restraint was not a mistake. It was a calculated strike. The move you refused to make was, paradoxically, the most dangerous, choosing silence over retaliation, patience over impulsivity, restraint over reaction. These decisions confused your opponents and upended expectations. They anticipated a battle